Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update, which includes the latest figures on mortgage stress and Australia's unemployment and underemployment. But first, to look at the key weekly indicators. Support continues to remain strong for the government, despite other indicators moving in a negative direction. Specifically, support for the Albanese government was unchanged for a third straight week at 55.5% on a two-party preferred basis, with support for the coalition unchanged at 44.5%. This is still about 3.5% higher than last year's federal election result, which the ALP won with 52.1% of the vote. However, government confidence dropped 4.5 points to 84 this week. This is the lowest it's been since the election of the Albanese government just over a year ago. A majority now of 51% of Australians, up 2.5%, say the country's heading in the wrong direction. Only 35%, down 2 percentage points, say it's heading in the right direction. Consumer confidence was down slightly this week by 0.4 points to 75.8. That's before the Reserve Bank meets today to set interest rates. And consumer confidence has now spent 14 weeks below the mark of 80, the longest period at recession levels since the index began. Before today's Reserve Bank meeting, consumer confidence was clearly the lowest for people paying off their home at only 71.2. But the biggest drop this week was for home owners. Their consumer confidence is down 4.6 points to 75.9. Renters are slightly more confident at 80.5. Now, over the weekend, ahead of today's crucial Reserve Bank meeting, the key weekly indicator of inflation expectations increased to its highest since mid-April. Australians now expect annual inflation to be about 5.5% over each of the next 2 years. That's up 0.2% this week. Inflation expectations are now slightly higher than the 5.4% average so far this year, although this is still well below the high of 6.8% reached in early November last year. And now, turning to a pressing issue for many Australians, mortgage stress. Roy Morgan's the only company that measures mortgage stress every month, and the latest Roy Morgan mortgage stress figures are out for April 2023, and the news is not good. Over a quarter of all mortgage holders, in fact 27.8%, are now at risk. This is the highest for over a decade, since October 2011. And this figure equates to an estimated 1.38 million mortgage holders being at risk of mortgage stress. In addition, and of even greater concern, nearly 1 in 5 mortgage holders are now extremely at risk, 18.5% of all mortgage holders. And this figure is equivalent to 881,000 mortgage holders. These figures are worrying enough. However, further interest rate increases will lift the numbers dramatically. Roy Morgan also forecasts the level of mortgage stress in the months ahead based on projected interest rate increases, assuming everything else is equal. If the Reserve Bank increases interest rates to 4.35% by July, this would increase the number of mortgage holders at risk of mortgage stress to over 1.45 million, nearly 1.5 million, or 30.2% of all mortgage holders, close to a record high. And now, turning to the latest figures on Australia's employment. Unemployment is down in May. Australia's unemployment fell for a fourth straight month, down 0.1 percentage points to 8.4% of the workforce. This is the lowest it's been since September 2022. However, underemployment, that's people who have some work but they're looking for more hours, underemployment increased in May as part-time employment was up strongly. Underemployment increased by 0.9%, almost 1 point, to 9.8%. Now, overall, 18.2% of the workforce, an estimated 2.72 million Australians, are either unemployed or underemployed. These monthly movements, of course, take place within the broader context of longer-term trends in the Australian workforce. And the Australian workforce has grown rapidly over the last year. All the key indicators have increased from a year ago, including employed people and unemployed Australians. Compared to a year ago, the workforce, made up of employed people and unemployed people, has increased by over 550,000, well over 500,000. Employment growth has also been strong, up by over 460,000 compared to a year ago. Growth in full-time employment's been even stronger, up by 330,000 compared to a year ago, while part-time employment has grown by over 130,000. But despite the growth in jobs, the workforce has grown even faster as more people started looking for work, which is why unemployment has also increased, up by 89,000 compared to a year ago. The surging employment market is due primarily to a fast-growing population powered by the return of immigration. After being closed during the pandemic, people have been entering Australia in record numbers. Now, looking forward, the continued challenges of high inflation and rising interest rates are a growing concern for businesses and consumers, with both business confidence and consumer confidence remaining at very, very weak levels. And that's a wrap for this week. Subscribe free to our Roy Morgan YouTube channel for all the latest political, economic and market research data and insights. Thanks for listening today, and I look forward to bringing you the latest data on consumer confidence, inflation expectations and voting intention next week. Take care, and we'll see you next Tuesday.